Lalish.
Sir, good morning, sir.
Good evening. Good evening. How are you?
Good, sir.
Good evening, Roger. How are you, sir? Lalish.
Sir, good morning, sir.
Good evening. Good evening. How are you? Good evening, Roger. How are you, sir? Lalish.
Sir, good morning, sir.
Good evening. Good evening. How are you? I'm good. How are you, Roger?
Hello.
Yeah, can you adjust your camera, Roger? Sir, what do I say you, Roger or Mr. Sengupta? How do I call you?
Yeah, Roger Sengupta.
Yeah, you have to make your camera angle till so you are only seen up to shoulder a little bit because there is a lot of gap over the head. If you see your camera,
Okay,
that will be quite nice. Because yeah, that will be nice. Okay, let me see whether head.
Is that better?
A little up, oh yeah, that should be fine. Because otherwise, what happens is they put scrollers and then most of the things will go.
You know what? Hold on 1 second. I was on this box. So.
Don't worry, we have 1 more minute of time.
That's too much, right? How is that?
Yeah, this is fine, perfectly fine. The background is also very good.
How is that?
Yeah, this is now very good.
I'll sit back. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Okay, let me know.
Yeah.
It's 4 o'clock.
You tell me when you are ready, Lalish.
Yeah,
I'm sharing the screen.
force your
Krishna, can I make a suggestion to you?
Sure.
Can you push your hair back? आपका बाल ठीक निकलेगा. Yeah, make in the middle. Yeah, that's good. Very good. Sabash.
Thank you.
Sure.
That
We are
doesn't
team
listen
now.
to me.
We are team now. Wicket keeper and bowler. Wicket keeper and bowler.
Yeah. Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Surely, absolutely. My pleasure. God bless you.
Thank you. And then nice to have you, sir.
Surely, my pleasure.
My chairman wanted me to call you and then have a show with you, Sridhar Chillara.
Yes. Sridhar and I, we at least go back 10 years or more, 12 years. 2008, I think we met during Obama's first campaign, or before that. He had a vision that he stayed with, which is very good. So this channel is called Mana TV?
Mana TV, and then it also goes to, we have another channel which is widely in India that is called TV5, and we have TV5 USA feed also and TV5 international feed. Two feeds we have, plus India feed. It goes to India, but it's 4 o'clock.
So but what is the group, like to acknowledge your consortium with Sridhar and you, what is the holding group?
Mana TV and TV5 group, you can say so, because of the holding company's name is not known so much so well.
Sure.
Ready, sir? 10 seconds.
Yes.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Good evening. My name is Krishna Vemuri, and welcome back to another show of Spotlight. Today's Spotlight, we have a distinguished guest by name Roger Sengupta. Roger Sengupta is a thought leader, multidisciplinary strategist, and serial entrepreneur and C-suite advisor. He has advised and taken US elected officials to India on groundbreaking trips, as well as active in 2004, 2008, 2012 presidential campaigns, and former trustee of the Senate Campaign Committee. Roger also advises individuals with bespoke and holistic approach, as well as entrepreneurs with startups by creating 21st century property business models with social impact, even in these COVID times. He has had AAA experience, means having grown up in Asia, Africa, and America, to share his various intercontinental perspectives along with travels, friends from every continent. He has mentored, coached several individuals and business entities over the past 30 years. His current project, Park Place Fine Arts, is based on universal equity, a new concept, a new way to build generational wealth through investing in fine arts. For example, helping young families learn how to finance their children, college education, medical, law school costs by using appreciation, leverage, and investing techniques in the fine arts marketplace. And we have here with us. Good evening, Mr. Sengupta. How are you?
Good evening, Krishna, and thank you so much for having me. I wanted to acknowledge your chairman, Sridhar, for his vision and staying the course of a great leader, and your program at Mana TV and the TV5 group. You're doing a great job. Thank you for your leadership in really being one of the pivotal communicators in our whole tri-state area and globally. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. And today, see, you have a lot of experience with people on either side of these parties. This election, everybody is saying that it's pivotal to their career, their America's future vision. Either party say so. As a neutral person, I would like your opinion on why this election is important to the people of America and, for that matter, people of the world.
Well, let me start by laying a very simple foundation. The stronger the foundation of consciousness, the better the decision one can make. Every individual has their own perspective, particularly in the campaign side. When an elected official and a politician, there is a difference between the two. I call a politician when they're campaigning, an elected official when they hold office. When you're campaigning, excuse me, and when you're in this cycle of getting the vote out, typically from a statistical point of view and a decision-making point of view, at the very core, there are three important points for every voter to consider, the three most important things to them. So we have to look at this in a very organic way. What are the three most important things to me of value to my family, to myself, versus you? So that is the thing that I want to really start talking about. I want every individual to think what the three most important things are to them. And then, I've been involved in political campaigns and understanding the due process, because democracy is a participatory process. You can only engage if you vote. And if you don't vote, then you're not in the system. Now, having said that, one of the fundamental important things, and this is a great job that your TV station is doing, and I want to applaud that, is to get the vote out. When we first started out, when I started getting involved in politics, and my family in the early 70s to really late 80s, when it matured under Reagan, and we had one of the first Indian appointees, Dr. Vomik, as a public health commissioner, the biggest thing is we would go around and they said, you as an Indian group back in the late 80s, early 90s, our voter turnout was very low. So the first thing I request all of your viewers who are registered voters, if they have not voted, vote your conscience. Vote the three most important things in your community first and foremost. Whether you live in a town or in a city, you have the hierarchy: local elected officials, county elected officials, state officials, and of course, national. There is an alignment, but vote your conscience. And then you have to do your thinking for yourself. Don't let anybody influence you. If you have children, maybe your public school system is important. If you're a doctor, you might look at certain state laws and malpractice insurance. If you're an attorney, you have a perspective. If you're in a simple worker of working in a restaurant, the food business, if you're own a grocery store. But the key is really to vote. And I think what would be a good measure, Krishna, is to challenge all your viewers to have some sort of a metrics of how many people have voted. Let's really challenge in a beautiful way, in an inviting way. Can the Indian diaspora, the Indians who are registered voters, US citizens, whether it's on a state basis or a national basis, can we benchmark and say that the Indians this year in this most pivotal election had an increase? Whatever it is, 10%, 20%, 30%, that would be a good measure, because until you engage, you really don't know. And so that's my first and foremost step-by-step request to your viewers. So please vote your conscience if you haven't done it. Thank you.
Okay. You have seen like what happened is most of the Indians, they get their 150K, 250K salary, and then they live here happily and comfortably, and then they have some money to spare and then send back to their parents, and then they're happy in their own way. What problems they should look at? Because see, in a year, if they get the salary, they're happy irrespective of what the problems this country is facing and what problems this country would face. That is the reason most of the people are not actively participating probably. That is why you may have asked the question, okay, how many people are voting versus how many people are not voting. They wouldn't want to go out and then choose a party over the other, or vote rather, not even party, what is best for them. They are unable to choose or they don't want to choose. How do you advise people to change this perspective and then at least choose a party, or what is good for them if not party, and which party's ideals are, which party can maybe possibly get better things for their kids in future?
Well, we have to use some metaphors and paradigm, right? So think of yourself as the president, whoever the leader is, sitting in the front of the plane, and we are sitting in the passenger side. Each one of us has a different perspective. But let me highlight a couple reflect on a couple of points that you said. One of the reasons that India has been transformative in its economic growth through liberalization from the late 70s, 80s, up and down 90s, has been also the foreign remittance of NRIs sending, foreign currency. And it has, over time, over the last 30 years, 40 years, significant contribution to GDP. So we cannot, we have to acknowledge that. We have roots in our motherland. We have that, our connection, whatever that is, and once born an Indian, always an Indian. We have, citizenship, dual citizenship, NRI, this and that. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong. But here's the thing, right? Depending on where you are, let's say You've been here for, give me an example and I can comment on it. So let's say somebody is be here for 20 years, got married, and let's say they're in their middle 30s or early 40s. They have young children. They want to groom them. So they want to, and one of the things that we are blessed with from our Indian culture is how important education is. We believe in education, we leverage education, right? The other important thing, which most Americans don't know, and that has saved India during the banking crisis, is we inherently, as a culture, as a consciousness, we are fiscally more responsible, right? Indians have a higher saving rate statistically, highest, in a sense, worldwide. I mean, if people were talking about what saved India in the 2008, 2012, because we had a very high saving rate. So one of the questions I also feel, at least with the friends that I have, we have a high savings rate, right? We want to build that nest egg. But let me give you an example. Like, we have to look at the entire life cycle, from cradle to cradle, because life is truly measured by the number of breaths you take. So if you have a problem, and that's from the Gita, life is always measured by the breaths you take. So if you have a child, you're a father, then later on you become a grandfather, right? And let's say you are collecting Social Security, and you have some hiccup with the system. I mean, now with COVID is different. If you don't engage with your elected official to expedite your inquiry or have that relationship, you could be stuck in piles of paper. So one of the things I moved from New York City to a small town now, and I'm very engaged with the small town. We were instrumental in moving from Manhattan to this small town because we had a business. We employed almost 400 Indians. And then what we did was we started improving the school system. We took a school system which was basically more focused on sports, not on academia. And it just took 1-2 parents to change the game, to bring in higher credentials. So you have to look at building your own pond. So education, any situation you have with government, whether it's a state level with your property taxes, Social Security, you must respect the office elected person holds. In your local councilman, your local town, then your congressman is national. But I am talking about do the very best you can in the community that you live in. That's real social impact. If you have an issue, if you don't have a traffic light, you need it, talk to your local elected. This is the advocacy. This is the sort of leaning in, and you have to be socially indulgent.
I understand that. Okay, thank you for the views. I have been observing one more thing among the Indian folks is that, okay, if I ask them, some people, they are okay to say, I'm aligned towards a party, Republican Party, I vote up and down the ticket of Republican Party, whatever it is. They don't have any other things to say except for, okay, my ideals are with Republican Party, I'm voting. And some other people say, okay, I'm aligned towards Democratic Party, irrespective of whoever is standing. I don't mind voting up and down the ticket. Fine, that is perfectly fine. The percentage of the people are very, very less. But what's happening is most of the people, in fact, I have spoken to quite a few of them. They said, no, the current president is not good. I don't want to vote for the Republican Party. And at the same time, they also say the same thing about the Democratic Party. The candidate is not good either. See, I tell them, like, you have certain things within you, like maybe you are a conservative or a liberal or whatever it is. And then there are only 2 parties existing, and 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th in this country. It's very difficult to come, or it's very difficult for you to start another party. Only thing is you have to size your needs to a party, or you have to, your need means that's how you have to choose a party looking into whatever approximately matches are the candidate. Then when I say about the party, no, this party is like this, that party is like that. Fine. Then candidate. I don't have much information about the candidate. Why you do not have much information? The other thing they say is the moment I browse for Trump on Facebook or whatever it is, they are serving me Trump things, few things. If I search something on Biden, they are serving me a lot of Biden things. So which one should I believe? This is the dilemma that they have currently. So how do you advise people to act, the people who are not decided to act in this context, Roger?
Thank you, Krishna, for that question. It is a complex question. And each individual, again, going back to what are the three most important things for that individual. And then depending on that person's engagement in society and occupation, a very simple question, regardless who is president, if somebody is in whatever, whether it's in New York City or a small town in New Jersey, Connecticut, how much does that president impact their lives, day-to-day lives, their livelihood? Are they on a national level? Are they on a state level? Or are they just happy staying at home? There's no judgment. The thing that we really have to dig deeper, I think, you have to do your homework. It's a buyer beware. We get in it, let's face it, our Indian marriages, right? Our arranged marriages, right? We come from a spiritual consciousness. Our mother or a father might pick our bride, because how do they do that? Is it instinct? Is it gut? Or do you have, referrals from generations? Here's the thing, how an individual makes a decision has to be informed, not with a biased perspective. Who is the best CEO for the job? Who is the best commander-in-chief for the job? Who is the best CFO? What kind of team? And I think what it is, you have to inspect what you expect. There is a lot of bias. There's no middle ground. But I have a different perspective. America is a complete capitalistic society. It's unregulated. If you're smart enough with the right team, you can really do well. Doesn't matter. You can, even I go to Jersey City, the Panwallers are doing very well. You can own 1 Dunkin' Donuts to 5 Dunkin' Donuts. America is the land of prosperity. You have to work hard. This is also country. If you have, and I don't know what the ground rule is. My ground rule is, if you have come to this country and you're here more than 5 years, you do not know the English language. I think that is making a statement, and you are limiting yourself. So that's one example. If you don't know how to drive and you're living in the suburbs where you need a car and you're dependent, why do you want to make yourself a handicap? But the question is, how do you make a decision, right? Are you looking, now obviously in COVID times, it's very different. But we all have, when you meet a person, a friend, a new friend, we are blessed with our own instincts. The human eye through the body can look at body language. Do I like this person or not? That's from your gut. Then examine the 3 details. If you say, okay, education is important for me, retirement is important for me, and business taxes are important for me. That's the construct. And then you see which candidate is going to help you. And is that candidate really going to have a direct impact on you? If you're on a national level, federal taxes, yes. If you're on a local level with the school system, then look into your local category of elected official. But I think the bigger picture, Krishna, is no matter what happens, right? I think most people, I would even venture to say, I would hope anywhere from 70 to 90% people have made up their minds. Because the people who have not, I don't know what that percentage is. In the old days, it used to be a certain percentage who made up their minds the last 72 hours. But the bigger picture is we are going to have a result. Whether we have it on election night or whenever there is, when it's certified, then there's the electoral college, because we have seen twice with popular vote shift and electoral college. Do people understand how the electoral college works? I mean, some people who are smart enough see the influence of electoral college, and quite frankly, they move to that state to make a difference, to have an impact. So America allows for to have sort of clever, boxes of thinking. But I think the bigger picture, to bring this whole community together, my perspective, for my attitude is, as life is measured with every single breath we take, whatever it is, have the consciousness, have the openness to accept the results. If they're certified, they're validated, you don't have a choice. That's the beauty of a democracy, and we can argue the statement, majority rules or minority rights. Today, it could be minority rules with majority rights, or in hybrid. We are a divided country, agreed. But doesn't mean we stop breathing, stop living. Even in these COVID times, we have children, we have families, even you're by yourself, you have to work to sustain yourself.
So go ahead.
No, so the whole thing is, I want people to start conditioning themselves that, a few days from now on Tuesday night, whenever the results come, accept it. Accept your new president of America, and also engage. Your engagement does not stop when the election day is over. You can engage every day. You can go to the inaugural, you can choose not to go. Engage with your local elected official. Until you're active, you don't know. You have to show up. Part of life success is showing up every day. Even in COVID times, you can show up electronically.
Yes, that is precisely what one point you told is very, very important. I want our viewers to think about it. Even after the elections, you keep engaging yourself. That is not what we are doing. I mean, that's not what we are doing right now. So possibly everybody should keep engaging with their local, state or national officials in some or other way so that they will know at least for the next election. Again, I hinge on my previous point, but with a different example, Roger. If you tune Fox News channel, let's say COVID. Okay, Trump has done very well in COVID. Then let us take the New York State. Governor has done very badly, and then the mayor has done even bad. So that is the order in which Fox says. And if you turn on CNN and other channels, Trump has done very bad. Okay, governor has done very good, and then in fact, De Blasio has done very good. So this is the order in which they say. Okay. For me here, I feel at times that president is as weak as he is strong. In some acts, he is very, very strong. In some acts, when it comes to local governance and then even more local governments to the mayor cities and things like that, even more weaker. So in these circumstances, again, the same advice. How do you want the people to react in the COVID case?
So, I had a very interesting reflection that I had shared with you. So we have to go to history of knowing what works, what does not work. We have to try. America is that innovation, even in government. When we had 9/11, George Bush, with his council of advisors, his cabinet, created a new cabinet position of Homeland Security, right? Now, today, we have the judicial side, the Supreme Court, we have Congress with the Senate and the House, and then the executive branch. I feel no matter who wins, since the country is divided and we have so many socioeconomic classes, I would propose to the new president, whoever it is, with acceptance, Mr. President, it's time now to have a relook at the cabinet. I would say for every group of stakeholders, even though that's the job of the Congress, the executive branch now should have two secretaries, or maybe three, for each socioeconomic level. The working class, the middle class, and the upper class. So the president in his daily briefing gets another perspective and not tied up in the politics of the Congress. So if you look at some of the advocacies that have happened, that any president, it's really how you get into the president's year. Because the president, no matter who it is in a bubble. I mean, if you look at the history of America, especially in the last 40, 50 years, it's divided. So all I'm suggesting is that there are so many stakeholders. America was founded as a corporation with our founding fathers. It was a company. It was a corporation. This way I look at it. Today, the board of governors that holds America today is different. The stakeholders are different. But do we have the representation, the ear of the president? Because the president is coming from a very protected bubble. And once you get into the White House, you're protected by so many levels of information and bureaucracy. But there are people who can directly engage with the president. Imagine in the daily briefing, just like you have all the secretaries, whether there's intelligence, economic, there was an advisor for the middle class. There was an advisor for the working class. And that would be direct. And I think with digital technology in the White House as a web portal, so we have to have some sort of pivot in this communication. Congress could be blocked out depending on party affiliation. At the end of the day, we have to get the job done. We have to look at our values, look at our three most important things, and live life to the fullest in this great country.
I came to an end of the session. We have 2 more minutes, sir. What I want you is how because see, you have dealt with different Senate committees and then you know a lot of people, how you make the Indian community represent their problems and issues to the national legislative bodies.
Well, one of the most effective things, the old-fashioned way, write a letter.
Mhm.
Write a letter, on nice stationery with blue. I am very particular in the old-fashioned, sincere way of communication. I remember one of the first times I went to, the thing switched, went to a meeting with an official, and I came home and I wrote a nice letter to the elected official. And 2 days later, the elected official called me and says, Mr. Sengupta, it's so refreshing to get a handwritten note. As long as you're sincere, less is also more. I would encourage every single person who is a voter, registered voter, citizen, write to your members of Congress, your local ones, write to your mayor, engage in that kind of communication, get known, show up if you wish to. You cannot hide behind at home and be, as we can, say in the football terms, be a, playing a quarterback on the sofa. Engage. You have to lean in. You have to lean in. Or be part of a team that can lean. If you cannot do it, be part of a team. Be part of a team. We all show up to our temples. Again, democracy is a participatory process. You need to know your elected officials for what you need, for what you want, what you wish for.
Okay. Thank you, Roger. Thanks for your time. And then I really enjoyed speaking to you. So I hope my audience also have enjoyed. Okay.
Thank you
your
so
final
much.
Remarks, 10 seconds, maybe if you want to say something.
Yes, let's welcome a significant increase in voter turnout from the Indian American community. That, I think, will be the best present, pre-Diwali present to all of us. And in advance, happy Diwali all. Please go and vote your consciousness for the richness of your legacy and the Indian heritage. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for your time. Okay,
sure.
Bye.
Thank you.
Welcome back to another session of Spotlight. And today we have Andy Paluri. He's a Middlesex County College Board of Trustees, and he has about 33 years of experience, and he's a licensed engineer, and his party affiliation is Democratic. Welcome, Andy.
Thank you, Krishna.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
And we have here with Jinesh Patel. He is Middlesex County Republican County Board member. Welcome, Jinesh.
Thank you, Krishna. Thank you. Hello, everyone.
Okay. I'm expecting another guest. Anyway, we will go ahead and then talk to each other about the set topic. In both the campaigns, China has been one of the pivotal points, either for the Trump people as well as in a negative way for the Biden camp. So we would like to see the effect of China on Biden and Trump, and in fact, for the future of USA and the world. So welcome both of you, and then let us start with Jinesh. Tell us about your views in this aspect. Like, I want you to stick to the topic: China, Trump, Biden, world, USA, future.
Absolutely. So thank you, Krishna, for inviting me to today's debate. So in the context of China, United States, and especially in respect to Trump and Biden, recently we are seeing a lot of debate going and allegations back and forth about Trump campaign alleging that Biden has given some contracts to his when he was the vice president, he has got some contracts for his son from China. Again, that's matter of investigation. I just saw news that Department of Justice has opened some investigation related to it. But again, that's matter of investigation. But in terms of China, I know for sure that in the past, China has, always, provoked democratic countries and tried to, play in with their leaders, including, bribing them or giving them favors in order to get favors in return. right? So, and I'm sure that Trump, has come clean in the last 3.5 to 4 years because he's not even taking a single dollar of salary, and America continues to become the leader, and driving the world's, economy in terms of, science innovations, discovery, and in terms of the overall growth, right? So, in order for this to continue, I think that Trump is the right candidate at this point for the re-election of his presidential, candidature, rather than Joe Biden, which was we have already seen his last 8 years when he was VP, what he has done to the country and the world.
And your opening remarks, and then after that you can contradict each other, sir.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
my
So,
Yeah,
sorry.
Junal. Go ahead, Randy.
yeah. He said he's a Trump supporter. So I'm just wondering if you need a mute button or not. But anyway,
No. We are more civil. We show
no,
more
I don't.
civility.
Yeah, the intent is not to make a fiery statements to get at each other. I think we can have a civilized conversation and agree to disagree on things. Like you introduced me, Krishna. My name is Anand Paluri. Actually, I've been here for the last 34 years. I'm an engineer by trade, and I run a major infrastructure company, a global company, its operations in the Northeast region. So that's my role. But on my spare time, while I'm not doing that, I'm actively involved in the local politics. I'm on the planning board. I served as the shade tree commissioner, and I've been elected to the Board of Education in Monroe. And most recently, Governor Murphy has appointed me to the Middlesex County Community College. So to getting back to your question about the role of China, any dictatorial country with aspirations always looks to expand their geographic territories. And that we have seen that with Saddam Hussein, we have seen that with Putin, and now we're seeing with the premier of China. So the two separate independent things going on here. One is the financial aspect of it. You could say Biden has got contracts, or Trump has a bank account itself conducting business in China as well. So, all these aside, that's one part of it. People do business across the countries, like we're all doing. But more importantly, I think from a context of how it impacts India, I think that a solid relationship, not just economic, but also from a military perspective, is extremely important. And when I see the newspapers that the U.S. Secretary of State is meeting up with our defense ministry in India and trying to create this pact that they would defend us in case of military aggression by the neighboring countries, it's definitely something that's I feel is a path, whether you're a Democrat or Republican. I think that path will continue moving forward into the next election. And that's a welcome news for any democratic country, that if these dictatorial countries take over smaller countries like it happened in Middle East with Iraq taking over Kuwait, and if nobody intervenes with it, then where do we stop, right? So I think there's no doubt that China is more powerful than India from a technology perspective and arms perspective. And if that is the only criteria for a neighboring country to come and take over, then we can probably do the same thing from India, also taking over Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. So that's not the intent. We respect the sovereignty of every country. And I think having the pact between the US and India is definitely a welcome from my perspective.
Okay, thank you. You have any points to oppose?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
issues, Jinesh?
Yes, Krishna. So I would like to add, Andy, I appreciate that he also appreciates the pact between US and India and Australia and Japan. They have created quad countries. I tweeted this on my Twitter last year, that all the democratic countries in the world, including the United States, is posing a serious threat from China's, communist regime. And here we have this COVID-19, where we don't know whether the, virus was created in the laboratory, or whether, it came from animals, right? But we definitely know for the fact that it was intentionally spread across the globe, where China did not allow it to spread outside the Wuhan. right? At the same time, China continues to be, fascist communist dictator regime with very worst human rights violation records, right? Whether it's against the Uyghur Muslims, whether it's against the Tibet, there's a Tibetan regime, government living in exile in Dharamshala in India, right? Whether creating a Gwadar port in Pakistan, going through this, this CPC going through the Pak occupied Kashmir, which is also illegal, and whether it's, crushing the Hong Kong protests, or also not giving a recognition to Taiwan, and whether it's bullying in the, their smaller neighbors, whether it's giving them loans at higher rates, and when they know that these countries cannot repay it back to them, taking their assets like the ports in order to deploy their military and naval and air force assets against the other powerful countries, and including bullying in the South China Sea. Sorry, Krishna.
Okay, thank you for that view. I think Andy has made a point that every dictatorial nation or totalitarian nation, they want to expand beyond their geographical limits. Fine. Soviet Union has tried some time back, and then it met its dust some in 1985. Okay, but what Soviet Union was doing at that point of time is possibly it is spending all its resources in expanding the communism throughout the entire world. An example of that one is when I was child, I think 6-7 years old, we used to get Soviet Bhumi, a magazine in Soviet land, a magazine in our village, which doesn't even have electricity. We used to tear the pages because nice paper, and then we used to make it as a book covers. Okay, that's how the Soviet Union has spent its money. Versus now China is a formidable economic power. And exactly as Soviet Union has the intention of expanding its whether communism or not necessarily geography, they wanted to expand communism. Here, these guys want to expand their geography. And they have a lot of money power. They have a lot of things, and then illegal, rather not so this one activities to get the technology and other things. So in this context, what is going to happen, Andy, about their ambition of being a superpower or their imperialistic views?
Krishna, as I mentioned to you when we were talking earlier, I just got finished up a Zoom call with Congressman Donald Norcross, who was actually on the Senate Arms Committee. And so one of the questions that I asked him
excuse me, I think I have to introduce one of our new member who joined late, Miss Manga. You are muted. Yeah, unmute, please. Ms. Manga, yeah, Manga, good evening to you. And she is a congressional candidate from Virginia CA CD11. I'm sorry, Virginia CD11. And then welcome, Manga. And we have here Andy Paluri, is aligned towards Republican Party. And then Manga is you are a Democratic Party. And then Manga is a Republican candidate from Virginia CD11. Okay, go ahead, Andy. Sorry for interrupting you.
That's okay. As I mentioned, I was just got off the call, Zoom call with Congressman Donald Norcross, and one of the questions I asked him is the fairness of election and the potential foreign interference. The way it relates to the question you're asking me is, he said, right now there are 4 separate threats that are going on within the United States for the elections. Number 1 appears to be Russia. They're actively involved in it. Number 2 is China. Definitely involved, and they're seeing a lot of interference with them. Third is Iran, and right now North Korea is also getting involved in the U.S. elections. Both China and North Korea not only getting involved in elections. One of the things that came through the debriefs is the fact that they're going to be targeting the hospital and medical systems within the U.S. over the next couple of weeks. There are already apparently ransomware attacks that are going on the medical hospitals. You probably know what I'm talking about, which is, all their medical records and everything freezes. They put a ransom of $5 million, $10 million, only then they release them. So it's not a conventional war. It's a cyber war. It's off the beaten path of how people used to conduct themselves. It's basically a blackmailing by a state-sponsored terrorism, cyber terrorism, if you will. All these things are happening because of the special interests. I know I got 2 Republicans here. I'm the only Democrat, but I can tell you that this country needs a change. It country needs a change right away. And what we have seen over the 4 years is deception, lies. I mean, as immigrants, what we have experienced being here, like I said, I've been here for 34 years, and I never felt that my skin color, my native origin of where I came from ever mattered in this country. The opportunity was open to everybody. But over the last 4 years, being an elected member in my township and being active in the politics, I definitely feel it that whatever the anger that was inside the people, maybe the anger was not created by Trump, but definitely he validated it. He approved it. He said it's okay to come out and be very racial, and that is really created the difference, the divide within the country. Doesn't matter where we go, the divide is clearly visible. That we never seen this nation ever go through such kind of a divide.
Manga, your views. I was asking that China has muscle power as well as money power to flex anything, to expand its geographic as well as non-geographic origins like technology, things like that. And then that is Andy's use. And then you can tell your views on how China can impact Biden, Trump, USA, and world.
Thanks, Krishnaji, for having us on your spotlight. I always enjoy coming on your show and expressing my views and sharing. Definitely, there is a lot of cyber terrorism and war going on. That is the very modus operandi of China that has always been, and also for Russia. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Mr. Andy Paluri is right that there is a lot of cyber war and terrorism going on. But the only thing I would have to refute what Mr. Andy has to say is it's all because of President Trump's racial divide. I think in this country, if at all there's any racial divide, that's all coming from the left. I've always been, I don't know about his experience. He sounds so Indian and less of American. Whereas I have been working for 24 years exclusively with white Americans, and I have never ever had to work with one Indian co-worker, and I've never felt the kind of any racial discrimination or divide, or because of that, me being a brown woman, I've had any issues. Right now, yeah, if at all there is any China involvement in our politics, I think that's all being contributed because of Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, the kind of the relationship they have had, the business relationship, and the very, very repulsive relationship they've had with China, and becoming so anti-American. All these sentiments are coming from the left. I don't think ever in this country racial divide has been a problem. And if at all I'm being discriminated, I think all the hate is coming from the left. Even when I go to polls, then if all loving Democrats, if they are so open to race, color, and everything, and when I go on, I poll hop every single day from September, from morning 9 o'clock until almost it is closed at 7, and it goes up to 8 o'clock, talking to voters. And the only time and only people who insult me, even as a candidate, when I just go say hello to them, it's all coming from the left, the Democrats. I have never seen anybody other than Democrats insult or hate anybody or their color. And definitely, if at all there is a China war involved, that's all being welcomed by Joe and his son, Hunter Biden, Nancy Pelosi, and all her puppets.
Okay. Okay. Jinesh, your views.
Yes, but on a lighter note, I hope Andy was running as as president instead of Biden, because what Biden thinks is it's in the interest of United States that China becomes a superpower. I think it's the interest of only in the Biden's interest that China becomes superpower, not in the interest of United States of America. But let me answer a question, Krishna. You asked about expansionist policies of China, right? Because I think it's very much barbaric. China continues to occupy and having issues with territorial issues with all of its neighbors, including Russia. Recently they invaded Ladakh in India. They are continuing to occupy illegal territory of Aksai Chin. They are claiming illegally Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh and so on and so forth. China also, when you talked about hacking of American secrets and stealing some of the American secrets, like for example, Moderna company is doing it's the front runner of doing the vaccine development, right? They are in the final stage of vaccine development. When they were in the first or second phase, there was, I think Department of Justice or FBI or maybe CIA found out that there were intruders from China trying to hack into the system and steal the research data into the Moderna or any other companies, right? So that's one issue of it. But coming back to your question about Russia and China relationships also, right? So I think that's a natural alignment because both are a communist country, and Russian industry is dependent on oil, natural gas, and the defense only sector, right? While the China is having overall development, and again I would say it's everything that China does, they are nothing but copycats of America and other countries. So in this nuclear world, most of its neighbors having nuclear weapons like India. There is no way that you can continue this expansionist policies and grab others' lands. Maybe they can continue doing with Nepal or some smaller countries of them. But I think I'm in the favor, in order to deter China from its expansionist policies. India, United States, UK, Japan, and all these countries needs to empower countries like Taiwan, Nepal, Bangladesh, Bhutan with nuclear weapons, including Taiwan and other countries, in order to protect themselves and their sovereignty. Thank you.
Okay,
Krishna,
thank you
I would
very
like
much. Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Krishna, I would like
1 minute, because I want to also comment. Give me some
Yes.
time also. Okay.
I'd like to add something to Mr. Patel has added. Although I definitely agree with him on empowering Taiwan and other countries and in that Southeast region, I don't think nuclear weapons is the way to go. And absolutely controlling China about its expansion of territories, I do agree with him, and definitely that needs to be stopped. And India and US can be playing a very pivotal role in having that role, bringing peace to that region. So I think I'm 90% with Jignesh Patelji.
Okay, thank you very much. But both of you are saying, Andy as well as Manga, you are saying that okay, there is racism, and then it's apparent now. Okay, but we were talking about China. Do I understand this racism is due to China, or is it due to whatever policies or whatever rhetorics that both the parties have? That is one of my questions. Okay, let me come to, I'll give you time to answer this question, but I have another question. But first, let us answer, each one of you have 1 minute. How China plays a role in the racism of America? Because both of you told so, Manga as well as Andy.
Well,
Andy, go ahead. Okay, let's go with Andy first.
Yeah.
How does China play a racial role in the US? Is that your question?
No, you said that there is racism, and my question is about China. You told that there is racism in America, which is
well, we have seen
how China is respond. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
China is not responsible for racism. The elected officials need to choose their words extremely carefully when they speak of a problem. And the guy in the White House right now doesn't do that. And we all know he doesn't do that, even if somebody disagrees. So he constantly calls the virus as China virus. And we have seen a number of Chinese establishments being attacked by the fundamental Proud Boys, so to speak. So I think that is one of the symptoms. It's not the only racial problem. I'm not saying that the racial divide did not exist in the U.S. from the beginning. It did. It was overcoming over decades of slavery and the women's voting rights and things like that. But I think in the 4 years, if somebody tells me that it did not take an ugly turn where it has been widely accepted, then they really have their head in the sand and they don't know what's going on throughout the country. You know, it doesn't matter whether you work with white folks or brown folks, or whether you're a Democrat or Republican, or what state you live in. Across the country, the number of racial divide incidents that took place have never taken place any time in the last couple of decades. So the issue is two independent things here. It's not the one size fit all. I think the Chinese were also subject to the racial issues, just like anyone else. I mean, you know,
you said China is definitely interfering in the elections. Does it mean, is it creating a racial divide among people by some way or the other?
No, not that I'm aware of. I mean, if they are, no, it's purely, I mean, obviously you cannot go vote by vote and change the votes, but they're looking at a bigger systems to see how they can interfere with the systems, and even, you know, ransomware and stealing of the voter identities and things like that. As I think Mr. Jinesh Patel kind of mentioned earlier, that they don't do the trading in a fair way. The Chinese philosophy of trading is that they can take a $600 instrument that you're using, and how they can manufacture that for $6 and flood the market with it, and kind of, you know, and kind of negate the other the inventors of the product itself. So that's how they overtake the markets. And that's probably the type of thing that's going on right now. But specific to the elections, like I said, I don't know the details of how they're trying to interfere, but there is definitely interference, that the cyber attacks that the State Department is extremely watching with a close eye.
Thank you, Andy. To Manga, to you.
Yes, I mean, I just want to mention there is a difference between President calling China virus a China virus or a Wuhan virus, because it came from China. You should be calling it a China virus. There is a difference between calling a virus that came from China as a China virus versus discriminating Chinese Americans. He did not say Chinese American virus. He called it China virus. There is a difference. Chinese Americans should never or ever feel so discriminated or do not like China virus being called China. I think my friend Andy should, I mean, clearly have that differentiation between Chinese Americans
could you please explain to me then why the Chinese business establishments are being attacked?
That's all because of the Democrats pumping trash into people, and whoever are involved in this rioting and burning of cities and looting, they're all Democrats and Antifas. I mean, that's who your party is supporting. And tell me which Republican city has ever had any violent rioting or burning down the cities other than your Democrat cities. I mean, wherever Hindus were being harmed, they're all Democrat cities. And wherever all this is happening, they're all Democrat cities. You show one Republican city, I will take that for a word. You cannot show one Republican city that would act irresponsibly like the Democrat cities or the Democrat leadership. I think they lack leadership, they lack patriotism, they lack American views and sense of belonging to America. They have all become anti-American and useless. That's exactly what I think, and that's exactly what is happening. Show me one example where a Republican city has been burned down and looted and violent riotings has happened. It can never happen. It will never happen because Republicans stand for patriotism.
Thank you, Manga. You have 30 seconds to answer, Andy, for this one before we go to the next session. Next question.
You mean Jinesh? Should I haven't spoken yet, Krishna.
Yeah, let Andy speak.
Okay.
Yeah, he's saying go ahead, Jinesh.
Andy, okay, thank you. So I want to first respond to Manga, about the nuclear for 5-10 seconds, and then I'll go back to Krishna's question, right? So I also believe that either all the countries should have the nuclear weapons or no country should have the nuclear weapon, but with a note that those rogue regimes of the world, whether it's Syria, North Korea, Iran, I'm against these countries having nuclear weapons, So on that purpose, coming back to, Krishna's and Andy's point, right? Basically, racism related to China. I don't think there's any racism related to saying it's a Chinese virus or a Wuhan virus. Our laws and courts will take care of if there is any racism. But at the same time, we cannot justify violence. What we saw in Minneapolis and Minnesota and other states, Philadelphia, all the Democratic cities were burning, police stations, cars, and the governments were doing nothing. Okay, until Trump said, okay, I will bring an army or National Guard in order to control these cities. These guys, in the fear of not getting their votes, they were doing nothing. Okay, this is unacceptable. As an American citizen, this is unacceptable to me because I believe the United States is a country of laws. Now, coming back to earlier point, right, about what can China do in order to spread racism also, right? So there were few applications banned recently in India, more than 60 applications, including TikTok, and in America also. TikTok was banned in terms of looking at the security threats. Now, what China can do is not just gather the user information, but can start mass, bombarding of, sending this, advertisements or notification that can create, polarization in the U.S. society. So I think that's more threatful than thinking about what Trump said and what's going to happen and whatnot. And again, don't forget, Nancy Pelosi in the San Francisco Chinatown was saying, let the why no problem of the virus. Let's have the China parade. Similarly, New York mayor was saying it. I think on the first priority should be the national security and safety of our citizens. Then looking at the racism, these are the secondary or
Thank you.
tertiary things. Sorry.
Thank you, Janisha. And to you, Andy.
Nobody who is a true patriot, or forget about patriotism, just a human being, would want to see violence on the streets. If you look at the majority of the cities within the United States, most of them are Democratic controlled. I'm not sure if either one of these Republican Kool-Aid drinkers could tell me which major city that the Republicans are controlling. But what happens is in the inner cities, there is a huge amount of minorities, and that's why they become democratic, is because they feel they're oppressed. By no means I'm suggesting, or any sensible Democrat will ever say that violence is acceptable. But it's an outrage that takes off, and then the antisocial elements come into play, destroying the properties. But the notion that the Democrats are not capable of governing, I have no words even to rebut something like that, to say it almost sounds like what Ms. Manga is suggesting, is there's a separate DNA for Republican, that there's a separate DNA for Democrats, and the Republicans only have the DNA to govern where the Democrats don't have. I think that's so divisive, and I really regret that our own community people feel that strongly about what they actually see day in, day out on the TV, what they read, and what we hear from our own friends in the community, what they're going through, and drink that Kool-Aid like they're doing. To me, this is unfathomable. So.
Okay, thank you. We have 1 more minute before we close the show, sir. Final remarks from Manga.
Oh, well, he said that there's some oppression going
10
on.
seconds. 10 seconds.
The only oppression feeling, whoever is feeling that, is the oppression of self-imposed power that Democrats are absolutely missing for the last. They're just having a hard time accepting. They did not even accept 2016 elections, and here we are with the 2020 elections. Get a grip, people. It's already 4 years and you're still living in 2016. 4 years have passed, so come up and with a better solution and a better thinking.
Thank you. Final 10 seconds to you, Jinesh.
Yes, my final words are America should continue the lead as the, global leader in innovation and science and technology, and should not hesitate, in punishing China or holding them accountable for human rights violations, whether it's a COVID-19 spreads or bringing back manufacturing from China or any of their neighboring, bullying tactics or integral discharges. So I think President Trump is the best person for dealing with China at this point, and Joe Biden is nowhere near coming close in terms of his credentials. Thank you.
Thank you. You have 10 seconds, Andy, before we close.
I agree with everything Mr. Patel said, the first half of his comments, and I think Trump is absolutely the wrong person to lead this country anymore. I think we have gone through serious issues, and I think it's time that the guy steps down and somebody with some experience, somebody with some morale, somebody with some values get in the White House to lead this country and stop the divide that we're going through right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, viewers. I think this is a heated discussion. I think we should have had 1 hour, but unfortunately we don't. We'll come up with another session of